Ancient Rome. Ah, the good old days. Apparently they really knew how to party, which led to all manner of debauchery and savagery in the name of fun. I'm glad not to live there. But a small cast of intellectuals left us their scholarly works, which balanced the story a little bit. They wrote about their history and philosophy and science, all the latest gossip around the empire, and a little bit about their tabletop games. But only a little bit. Dice, gambling, game pieces moving about, gambling, race games, and war games. Did I mention gambling? One of the most Roman of the ancient games is called Duodecim Scriptorum, or Duodecim Scripta. The earliest known mention of the game is in Ovid's Ars Amatoria, which means the Song of Love. It was written in the first decade of the current era. And dozens of duodecim boards have been found throughout the empire. Duodecim, of course, is Latin. It means 12. 12, of course, is a Germanic word meaning 12. But if we look at the game board from a couple thousand years ago, we see that there are actually 36 spaces. In Latin, 36 is triginta sex. Why it's not called that, I'm not sure, but next time I'm in ancient Rome, I'll have to ask around. Some of the game boards, some of the more famous versions of the game boards, make use of a series of 6-letter words. And usually those 6 words have some kind of a theme to them. Here's a few examples. You can probably recognize a few of the words in these examples. Circus, we all know. Clamor, meaning to shout or to make noise. Pisum means fish. And this is a famous one. It's known as the Timgad board, found in Algeria. Venare, levare, ludere, ridere, oxest, vivere. Excuse my Latin again. It means to hunt, to bathe, to play, to laugh. That is what life is. Some folks have speculated that this is related to the Egyptian game of Senet, the descendant of that game, but there's not really a direct connection. There's a plethora of games very, very similar all around the east end of the Mediterranean and beyond. Wherever the Roman Empire placed their standard, they left behind stuff, and part of that stuff was their board games. These games are being found all over, wherever the Roman Empire stretched its tendrils. Cubic dice found with the game are Roman, of course, but not exclusively Roman. The evidence of game pieces found with the boards hints that there were 3 dice used in the game, and the playing pieces found are usually in numbers of 15. And so 15 pieces per player. A board has been found with groups of 6 letters for each of the sections on the board, indicating that this might be a kind of an instructional board to teach people how to play the game. From that surmise, there have been several different rule sets put together. Essentially, it's a tables game, a race game. But the sequence of A's, B's, and C's sort of tell us how the flow of traffic would go around the board. And our old friend H.J.R. Murray wrote down a set of rules in 1952 in his book on the history of games other than chess. And it goes something like this. The board, as I mentioned, is 3 rows of 12 spaces each. And though many examples are made of 6 6-letter words, let's just go with spaces for our tutorial. The groups of 6 spaces are traditionally referred to by a letter, as shown here, from the first player's point of view. That first player was probably determined by the throw of the 3 cubic dice, the higher total moving first. Each player's 15 pieces begin off the board, and the simple goal of the game is to get them onto the board around a certain path and then back off again. Although the first 6 spaces are different for each player, the rest of the circuit is just an anti-clockwise trip around the board and off. The path for the near side player is like this, from this player's point of view. The opponent on the other side follows this path. Mr. Murray does not suggest that any special die result is needed to enter a piece onto the path like a lot of race games. The die results are interpreted as 3 individual moves per turn. They can be used to move 3 individual pieces, or applied to 1 or 2 pieces. Die results are not added together as one long move. Single pieces sitting on a space were called vagi, and if landed upon, they were removed from the board, given back to their owner, and then re-entered on the path at a later turn. A player can stack any number of their own pieces on any of the spaces, and these were called ordinarii, and are immune from capture. A moving piece cannot land on a space occupied by the opponent's stack of pieces. Such a move cannot be made. My copy of Murray's book appears to have a typo. It says that the pieces could not be borne off or moved off the end of the path until all of them were in the D section. If both players are trying to get all 15 of their pieces in that 6 spaces of the D section before any can be borne off, there's going to be an amazing traffic jam there. 30 pieces on 6 spaces. It's going to be tough. I think it's supposed to say D and E sections. Die rolls that can't be used are just ignored. So it's very possible in the last phase of the game to go without any possible moves for a while. But eventually one player will finally get a combination of die rolls to move all their pieces off the end of the path and win the game. But wait a second. There are some rule sets, not Murray's, but some that say when you get all of your pieces into this last section of the board, of the table, that different rules come into play. You can only use 1 die at that point. And some say that you need to have an exact count to move off the edge of the board. That is to say, if you're on the very last space, you need to roll a 1 to get off the board, etc. I want to suggest that you go to Wikipedia and look at the listing for tables games. Put the S on the end there. You will get a long list of variations on the tables games. Some of them that are, shall I say, convoluted, and others that are just straightforward race games and everything in between. From Persian nard all the way to Icelandic Adelpha Stelper, these varieties of tables games and race games seem to be pretty much unending. Quite a trove of historic tables games throughout the millennia. I invite you to try them all, and you can do so too if you take my advice, and be sure to play every day.